and thanks for joining our week 2 of AI Flutter Club. What does this club mean? It's space where Flutter meets AI. But before we talk about AI, we need to talk about widgets and custom widgets. This week we will talk exactly about custom widgets and our speaker, amazing Maureen, and she is professional Flutter developer, Google developer expert exactly in Flutter and Dart. Also, women tech makers, ambassador and organizer, founder of Women Platform. So you are welcome. Biggest thanks for your time and thanks for sharing with us your experience. And custom widgets is crucial, important knowledge. You are welcome.
Thank you so much for the welcome, and thanks so much for organizing this series. So, as mentioned, today again, I would speak about building custom widget dynamic UIs. And from the introduction, yes, as people talk about AI and every other topic related to AI, and in the world of Flutter, it's still good to know about the foundations of what makes widget look good, even if we add or enhance AI in our applications. So today would be more of a deep dive into how you can build custom widgets and dynamic UIs in Flutter. And as mentioned, yes, my name is Maureen. I'm currently based in Germany, Berlin, and I work as a Flutter engineer. So I would go straight to my slides. And this is the agenda for today. So we would quickly go through what widgets are in Flutter, the difference between built-in widgets and custom widgets, stateless versus stateful widgets, and why custom widgets matter, and best practices, and also a simple demo as we go along. This question I usually ask myself a lot of times, and I noticed this especially when I was just getting started with Flutter, because when you are in the intro stage where you are trying to learn to build without knowing the best practices, you'd find yourself repeating the same code or the same pattern again and again. So, have you ever repeated the same widget again and again? And this means that you have to check, is this code useful elsewhere, or how can I make this usable or reusable, or how can I even customize this over and over? And this is where reusable custom widgets comes in. Take a look at this screen, for example. It's a picture of a phone UI with different widgets on the screen. We have the first card, we have the second card, we have the third card, and we have the fourth card. For example, if you were supposed to build this UI, especially the first card, ordinarily, if you are getting started or just learning, you might end up building this widget maybe 4 times, one for the lamp, one for the air conditioner, one for the TV, and another one for the robot vacuum. But in the process of trying to build these 4 times, you realize that some components are the same. For example, the first line would always be a text, the second one is also a text, and then the two items below the card are icons, or there's a toggle on the right and some icons on the left. So what should you do in this case? The best approach would be to create one widget, custom widget, and make it in a way that you can reuse it everywhere that requires the same structure or condition. And before we know how to build our custom UIs or custom widgets, we need to ask ourselves, what are widgets in Flutter? So widgets are the building blocks of Flutter applications. This comprises of text, cards, buttons, containers, and all other examples. So in your free time, if you are fully new to this, feel free to check the official Flutter docs on the UI widgets. But what we mean by the building blocks is what makes the entire applications. For example, in this previous screen, you can see that we have like different texts, different containers, different icons. So all these put together are the building blocks of an application. And this is what widgets are basically. So what's the difference between a built-in widget and custom widgets? So the built-in widgets are provided by the Flutter SDK. So these are the predefined widgets that we usually find. For example, the text, the container, the scaffold, and they're usually general purpose widgets. Let's say if you want to make something quick with a text, you can readily use them, but they have limited properties. On the other side, custom widgets, these are custom widgets that we create by ourselves, especially we extend the already existing widgets by the Flutter SDK. And this can mean that you extend it to create another custom button, another custom toggle, or specific app customizations widget. For this can be either iOS or Android specific or web specific widgets. And then lastly, they are fully customizable in code, like we've seen before. So if you have one reusable card, you can tweak and reuse it several times as you wish. But why custom widgets? Why do we need custom widgets when we have built-in widgets? That's one question you might ask yourself. One reason why we need this is to improve code organization, to avoid repeated code over and over again. So it improves your overall organization. And another thing, to be able to customize behavior and design so that like you build once and you customize several times. And another advantage for this is it enhances scalability. By this we mean that you you are able to build on top of a custom widget. If you build it in a different way today, you can still extend and add other functionalities to it. So that's why it's recommended to have custom widgets so that it can also make you scale your projects. And it's also easy to test where you have a custom widget than four widgets doing the same thing or different things. And this is one example of a custom widget where we have this button that has the delete text. So for example, if you have a normal button that you want to use, but it could have different properties. And ordinarily, if you try to create a custom widget, you can add other properties to it. I would show this from the code directly, but these are some of the basic highlighted properties that you can have in a custom widget, for example, within a button. You can introduce a label color, which is black, a label delete colors, and then the on-pressed callback functionalities. So this allows you to change these colors the way you want, especially in different use cases, or change this text the way you want in different use cases. Like, for example, in this one. So it's the same button, but we'll be able to change the label from delete to now click me. And then you change the color from the previous purple color to pink, and the label color, you change it to something else. Another notable difference is the size of the button. So it's the same button, but now we have a factory of different sizes of the button. So here is where we have a small button and the previous one was a medium button. So that's the beauty of having a custom widget. Other than that, you can also have custom widgets in form of a toggle. So this allows you to customize the toggles in different ways. If you need to change this color to something else, or if you need to change the labels to something else. And this is a sample code of what we have for a toggle. And we also need to show how it can display on different backgrounds, or what should happen when the toggle is on or when the toggle is off. So I'll quickly show what we have. For example, here, this is like on, off, change behavior. And these are some of the buttons that we have. But before that, let me show you the actual code of these custom widgets. So like I mentioned, for the button, for example, it's a custom widget for the colored button. And since I want to reuse it in different use cases, I have various variations of the same buttons. Now, this is the small variation of it, and this is the medium variation of it. So this way, it's easier because now I would be able to use the large version of the same button where I need the large button, or the small button of where I need the small button. So what you need to change is just the properties that you need to add in case you need new functionalities. But if you have common repeated properties that is required for all of them, then it's good to have them as required. For example, the label, the background color, or the label color, and then the void callback for onPressed. But if you have other properties that could be specific to only a specific set of buttons, then you can make them optional so that you can reuse only that property within the specific use case. But in the end, we return the elevated button from the Flutter inbuilt elevated buttons, and then we use this style for all of them. So the beauty of having this custom widget, it enables us to have everything centralized into one place. And with this, if we need to test or write tests for these buttons, then we would write tests for this one class for the colored button and test various states of it, the medium, the large, and the small versions of it. So when it comes to the toggle, we also have the toggle switch, like I mentioned. So you can also customize this to have like the on label or the off label, depending on what you want to show or display on your screen. So for our case, was on and off labels that we wanted to show here. So you can add these properties of on or off, and the value chain for on change to for us to listen to when the toggle is on or off. And with this, we can also add the properties that are returned here. And with this, as you can see, we return everything within a row. And one of the children is the text, which is the default, one of the default Flutter inbuilt widgets. And with this, we can pass in different styles to it. So here is where you can change different colors to what you want. Maybe we can change this from green to maybe blue. And then see what happens when this toggle changes. So it changed from whatever color it was to blue. That is when the toggle is turned on or off. And for the switch color, the active color, so we have the red right now. And we can change also this to something else, maybe green now, so that we can see how it actually looks. And when we turn this now, this is green. So that's the beauty of having all of these centralized together. And In the same case, if we need to test this class, then we would test the entire class instead of writing two several um, custom custom switch widget that does two different things. And because we are also using it here, so this is just a quick example for a demo, you can always change this according to your specifications if you need to change anything or update anything. So other than this, you might ask yourself that, okay, we have different ways of writing good code or different recommendations of writing good code, having a custom widget to be able to reuse it, and different ways of having this. But there are some cases where we can have scenarios where your code is so jangled up together, and as a term, the widget spaghetti, and as the spaghetti analogy that says that always says that like everything is put together. So this is like a typical spaghetti meal where how the spaghetti looks like when cooked, for example, everything is merged in together, and it's a bit hard to separate until you physically separate it. So how does it feel to have a spaghetti widget? And why don't we recommend having a spaghetti widget? So first of all, it's hard to read, and reusing is very impossible. And with this, it means that the logic and layout is all often mixed together, and it makes maintenance a nightmare. By this, we mean that it's so hard to scale a spaghetti written code. So that's why we advocate for clean, structured code, even if you follow the custom widgets uh, principle, where you need to, like, okay, you've separated your concerns, you have different widgets for different functionalities. And with that, also, it makes sense to make things clear while at it so that you don't have like everything jangled up together. And this is an example of a code that looks spaghetti-ish. So this is a simple UI with different functionalities together. So for example, if you have a login form that you need to add a username and email examples, and maybe a user profile icon. So sometimes people write this code. Maybe you can write this when you are in a rush and not for a production ready app. So you'd see that within the same place, you have a column that has container with these specifications. And then the child of this container is a row that has like a person and a size box of this width and column. And at the same time, we have like a username text and the email. So this is so hard to maintain because one, what if you have 20 users? What if you have other users, like you need to modify this form differently, or you need to reuse this login form, for example. So this calls for action to build an actual reusable, maybe an email login input widget form or something like that, so that it's easy to pass in the details for the username, the email, the profile. And I'll just show a sample of how this can look like. So as I've mentioned, so within the same code, we return everything together within the body of the code. Within the body of the code, and then we have like a delete button at the end. So this is so hard to scale because you might have the same login to use for different things. Maybe for account creation or account deletion or something like that. So we need to find out a way on how we can showcase this to look better. But before that, I'll just comment the previous code so that we can rerun the spaghetti code and see how it looks like. So I'll just uncomment this and have this and close this and see how it would look like. So when we run this, so this is a sample spaghetti UI. So yeah, it looks good-ish, but it's so hard to scale because everything is together and hard-coded. What if we need to input different inputs? So for this, we would see why we need to update this. And for a cleaner version of it, we can create each widget separately. For example, the input, we can make it scalable in terms of being able to separate different widgets doing separate things so that we have each widget to do only one thing at a time, and also make it easy to reuse. Maybe we can have a user card in other screen, and also we can make this code cleaner and shorter by having, if we separate all these classes separately, we would have like a clean and shorter build method, and this would be easier to maintain and to test. And this could be a cleaned up version for the spaghetti code. You can always improve this according to how you want, but this is a case for an example. So any previous widget is to have a user card that has like a name or an email inputs. So with this, you can always improve this to do other things. Maybe you can add other functionalities if you need them here, or if you have like a short name, full name, last name. So with this, you can easily test it and add other properties instead of the previous one where you had everything all together here. And then here you can also add spacing. For this also you can, there are several ways of improving this. So right now column has the spacing property that you can also use so as to limit this different spacing that you can add in between. So you can use, you can leverage on some of these that you already have. And then we have the colored button, which is still the same for deleting account. So for some cases, you can see how you can put all of this into one widget. So because this is just for an example sake, you can have this also as part of the form so that you have like one form all together. And also like add other properties to this button so that you can easily change or advance other properties in case you need them. And as you've seen, this is the example one. Yeah, so it's pretty much having putting these properties in separate widgets for you to be able to reuse them easily and add the properties that you need specifically, and also advance on what you can improve on as you go all. And after that, there's one question that you need to ask yourself. Okay, I'm trying to follow the best pattern, but what are some of the best practices? So the first best practice would be to encapsulate UI logic so that each widget should only do one thing or things related to what it's supposed to do so that it's not mixed up. And then make the widgets reusable. So by reusable, it means that if it's like a user card, make it be able to add other properties into it, add more colors properties or other text property labels or any other things that you need. So that's also one of the best practices. And it's also good to use named constructors for common variations. So this would be easy for you to use, especially if you have different variations of the same. So having a named constructor would help you know that, yeah, for this user card, it requires a name or an email if you already defined your constructors like that. And then the third best practice is favor composition over inheritance. So this means that build complex UIs by combining simple widgets and not subclassing. So this is one of the best practices as well to make your coding easier and better. And another practice would be use stateful widgets only you when you need it. So stateful widgets are often widgets that change. So it means that they can mutate from one state to another state. So it's recommended that you only use them when you need them because they are expensive to use, especially because they change. And stateless widgets are widgets that don't change. It means that if you have a, a UI with a label text and it does not have any other property or functionality that would change, it would always stay the same text, it would always have the same color, nothing else would change. So that's a stateless widget. So keep most widgets stateless, isolate state to where it's only truly needed so that it also improves your performance. And another thing is aim for readability and maintainability. So this means that we should avoid spaghetti widgets or bloated build methods with several functions or several properties added to it. So it's good to separate this so that we also have it easy to maintain, write tests for them, and also to expand. Build a design system or a widget library. I see most companies already do this, where you have like your own collection of reusable widgets for buttons, cards, toggles into like a folder or a package. So this becomes like easy to maintain and also easy to extend and also easy to add other functionalities. And you'd always like improve this design system over and over depending on your product use case or your company use case. And it also keeps your UI consistent across your apps and future projects. And another thing to avoid is avoid excessive nesting. So use layout widgets, e.g., padding, size box, or column sparingly so that you don't have like a nested column into another next nested row or a nested padding and a nested size box as you go along. So find alternatives to what works best for you. um, there could be ways of advancing or rather using this sparingly. You can use the gaps. There's the gaps widget that you can also use to enhance your spacing. You can also define your resources, spacing, dimension resources within your design system so that you know that when it's a 12 or an 18, you'd always use the spacing from your design system library. And other than that, use tools like Flutter Dev Tools to spot performance hits. So this would help you also try to find a loop into what's actually missing or what can you improve on the existing system and how can you make it better. These are some of the resources that you can check. The Flutter widgets, material components, especially if you want to get deeper into some of these components and how you can extend or improve them. The Cupertino widgets. So these are mostly the iOS side of widgets and how they will look on the iOS side of things. So feel free to check that as well. And lastly, the Flutter official docs. So this contains the guidelines and a list of good practices that you need to follow while doing this. And I think I'll just click one of these material components so that we have some views of them. Yeah, so it's just a collection of the specs, and based on this you can see like a variety of them classified. So for actions you can have the common buttons, the floating action button, the extended floating action button that you can use like this, the segmented button that has the multiple clickable blocks to help people select views, so you can have this, the icon button that helps you click different actions. All of them are grouped under actions. And for the communications, we also have this, the linear progress indicator, very common in our apps, the snack bar that shows and pops up in the screen. You can also leverage in using it. And the alert dialog, as you go for navigation, we have the up bar, bottom up bar, navigation bar. So yeah, so if you check a collection of all these material components widgets, it would help you check which one is useful for your team and how can you use them. And I would go further and say that was it for today, and thanks all for listening. I hope we improve the way we develop and also improve the way we write our widgets so that we don't have bloated widgets or spaghetti code over and over. Thank you for today, and you can check me out on X, or formerly Twitter, with the handle at @J_Akello, or on LinkedIn with just Maureen Josephine. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any of your questions that you might have today. Danke.